your words and your mouth were not in sync. It was like
and the highway department. Yesterday for the evening, I had a chance to visit with Debbie, and I had asked some questions about the budget and things like that. And the tax and finance business office is extremely overwhelmed right now. The number of ballots that are coming in are exorbitant, which is a good thing, but a bad thing because we have never done this process before. Obviously, there are over 30 counties in the state that do this process every time there is an election, except Grand Forks County, Cass County, Burley. The larger counties have had polling sites available. So one of the things we did discuss was that we got a jump start on our budget meetings. Obviously, it is May, and we have done them before in June, and we have done them before in July. They are not due until the beginning of August that we have to present them at a commission meeting. And so one of the things that is going to take place because of this timeline is that once we have this meeting today, and this meeting will be meeting with Mr. West and visiting with Mr. Burkholder. Colleen, I don't know, do we have Red River Valley on the schedule? I don't know if we do. I didn't hear if Don Mott had responded or not for Red River Valley. Once we have these two meetings and discuss with them their budgets and what their needs are, we're going to be taking a break. And that break is going to be until after the general election in June. The reason being is because Debbie is extremely overwhelmed. I don't think that there was a lot of knowledge of what was going to happen with the ballots coming in and people sending in their information, which is great. We want to see a great return on the ballots, but they're coming in by the hundreds and the thousands. And I believe her office is trying to process them with about 12 volunteers from other offices and some volunteers. I know Diane and Bob Ross have both been very helpful in volunteering their time. So that is very much appreciated. But at this time, we'll have our meetings today that are scheduled, and then we're going to take a break until after the general election, the one in June 9th, the primary, right? Is that June 9th? Yes. That's the correct date? Yeah. Okay. So after, when we have our next meeting on the 2nd of June, we'll determine when we'll be scheduling the next budget hearing. We will, have time in the summer to go through them. It's not going to be an easy process. It'll be more of a difficult process because of the way funding is going. But Debbie did share with me that she has had no time to spend, and I know Colleen has, and thank you, Colleen, but Debbie has had no time to look at those. And she did share that they are working 7 days a week to try to stay ahead of this. So I really want to be respectful of the entire office. And so we will put a hold on any additional budget meetings at least after June 2nd, and probably June 9th will be our stop date. We'll give them a few days to get things done, and then we'll have additional budget meetings probably about the 15th of June and on. So I just wanted to inform all of you of that. Are there any questions or comments?
I have, the only comment I'll make is just that with the wonderful staff, the volunteers that we've had, it's not difficult work, but it's very time consuming. And, we've got a group of individuals that are there every day and doing a great job. And I think as of last week, we were on top of it. I mean, the day we got it in,
and then the mail came. Then the mail came the last 2 days.
Okay. All right.
Because now it's ballots that are coming in.
Right.
And
that was the next step that we just experienced this week. And so, but I did reach out. I had a library board meeting last night, and so I did reach out to the library people and encouraged or asked them if they would be willing to volunteer as well. And so hopefully we'll hear back from them, because most of them are working remotely, but rather than at the library, so they would be able to volunteer and participate. So hopefully we'll pick up some folks there. But I guess on Deb's behalf and her staff, they're doing a wonderful job. It's amazing. It's a real learning process.
I was going to say very understandable, and these budgets are always fluid anyway.
Correct.
We're always making adjustments for the next few months here in early summer, so no problem.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate that. It is a little early, but Nick, are you ready to share the information that you have for us? We did get the handouts from Colleen, and so we have your revenue and your expense reports that were sent to us.
Yes.
So if you'd like to go through stuff, you just go ahead and I'll mute my phone here, or mute my computer.
Okay, well, sounds good. If we want to tackle the revenue side of things first, the one we have no control over is 2150. That's our highway tax. We're totally guessing on what that's going to be. I think right about now we estimated a pretty big deduction in there for next year, just due to the fact we're collecting less tax revenue. People aren't driving to work, they're not buying gas, they're not paying gas tax, so revenue's down. We have no control over that. And that's a number we're guessing. Usually we get that number from the Association of Counties, but I visited with our contact there last week with our North Dakota County Engineers Association, and they're kind of struggling, they're very struggling with what kind of number to predict for next year. So that's why we haven't got a number from the state yet as far as what that's going to be, but we plugged the number in. We're at least minimally a 15% reduction. So that's a huge kick in the teeth. So, but it is what it is. So we'll have to adjust. On the 2140 side, that's the side we would have control over. That's our road and bridge. That's property tax. We did submit a number, but I see it's not in there. So I was curious as to why a number wasn't in there. And to be frank with the board, I know they don't want to raise taxes, but I was really, really hoping to just maintain the mill levy. And so that maybe would go up 1-2% or whatever the valuations are going up. But being our other fund is taking such a kick in the teeth, I was hoping to at least maintain something. But that's where on the expense side of things, that's where we show just a very small dollar increase on that. So I don't know if there's any comments on that from anybody. Or I don't know if Cody, if you could comment as to why there isn't a number shown at all on the report. Do you know why? Is that just maybe an error or?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was having problems with my microphone. So what amounts are you talking about, dude?
2140 revenue for next year.
And are you talking about the general property tax 2020 line?
Correct.
Oh, we don't put that in until it's calculated.
Okay.
That's the amount we'll levy for. So we just put in for now, the other revenues. We leave out the property tax until we have the final numbers.
Okay. How would that be determined then? Because usually we request a number, and then at this meeting they get the preliminary approval, and then it gets tweaked in the next couple of months, but it's usually fairly close at this meeting.
Well, we have to, we put in the revenues and the expenses, and then the amount we need to levy for would be that amount for the 2020 general property tax.
Correct.
you guys hear me? Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a question or a statement.
oh, no, that's the answer.
Okay. Could we stick in a comparing number of the state mills, it's like 7.9 or?
Yeah, I did stick the numbers in a spreadsheet. Right now, it's at 8.45 with the value I have for the 2140 fund.
Okay. Oh, okay. I always knew it was right around 8, but.
Yeah, and I did reduce, I think it was your cash carry forward because your amounts were a little different than ours once I put in the salaries and benefits.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, our cash carry forward is probably gonna be a lot less than in past years because we're gonna be scraping this year. So,
But yeah, right now it's 8.45.
Nick, have you figured in to the 2020 budget any of that prairie dog deal? I mean, I know that's probably null and void at this point. Who knows what's gonna happen with it, but have you figured any of that into that budget?
we have not, Commissioner Peach.
Okay.
It's, and that has to be all tracked separately. In my conversations with Debbie, we would create a whole new account for that. So it's completely tracked in a different account. And if it comes, and, you know, at this point, I hope I'm not being pessimistic and I'm being realistic, but unless the price of oil comes up and these wells turn back on,
Right.
yeah, I don't know if we'll get our 5 million or not.
I don't think.
You are muted.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so at all. Of course, my son works out in the oil field. It just isn't gonna happen. We'd be better off buying a Powerball ticket if we're looking for money on that.
Yeah.
Question on the expense side. Obviously, the price of fuel is down, so I'm asking a facetious question. When the price of fuel goes down, what do we have for overlay? Does that cost ever go down or does it always stay up?
We have lowered the price on our fuel. Historically, we've had about $500,000 in there for fuel. And yeah, it's cheaper now. And we've had $500,000 in there for many, many years. And every year we have money left over in it. And it's kind of been our unofficial slush fund.
Yep.
I just don't, and we have it down to 400,000. No, wait. Yeah, 400,000 and 2150. Well, we had it at 450 last year, or this year. Next year we show it at 400. Really don't want to go any lower. I mean, gosh, if 16 months from now the price of fuel goes to $4 a gallon,
Right.
man, we better have some money to plow roads in December.
What about like the seal coat and the tar and some of that? Does that fluctuate in price then according to what gas is? Or does that stay at a pretty constant dollar amount?
Which items? I'm sorry.
Seal coat and tar, does that go down because the cost of fuel and oil goes down, or does that stay pretty constant?
Oh, okay. Seal coat would change drastically based on how many miles we're going to do. And actually, next year we're not planning on 8 miles.
Okay. But for this year, will seal coat go down? I'm just hoping you're going to get more bang for your buck at this point.
Yes, it did go down.
Okay.
And it was a little bit below budget because of the price of oil. Well, I'm speculating the price of oil.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, hoping that, when a yin and a yang, when one goes down significantly like fuel, those derivatives of fuel, the seal coat, the tar, hopefully that would go down a little bit to at least give you just a little bit more to work with, maybe a few extra miles or whatever when you're doing those
Right.
projects.
So a year ago, that's a great example, Commissioner Peach. A year ago, we had estimated our seal coat for this year to be $780,000. And when we started putting our estimates together early winter, we thought we were going to be over budget. And we were worried and we were contemplating even cutting miles, but we went ahead and did it anyway. And then it turns out when we did it, it came in lower than budget.
Good.
I think it was 712,000. 712, we had budgeted 780. So yeah, we did save some money there.
Good.
But yeah, it's always the problem when you're trying to budget a project a year out. I mean, you take your best guess and add a little conservatism to it and roll the dice.
Exactly.
Yeah. But generally speaking, on our expense side of things, we have no special projects to present to the board that would be new or different or special or haven't been previously approved. We have, I think we have a VRR, that project in 2140, VRR 0054. That's our matching funds for the bridge grant bundling project we are committed to. So that's matching funds for that. That's already been unofficially pre-approved already. We applied for the grant, we need matching funds. And then we have, like, say, the outline shop repairs, 200,000. That's going to be for the Niagara shed. And if you remember this meeting last year by chance, we had put money in there to repair and upgrade one shed a year, but I had to cut it this year. So we were all ready and geared up. We had contractors ready to go. And at the last second, I cut it because it was in our 2150 account. And that was right when state said revenue's dropping. And I had to cut $460,000 worth of projects. And I had all the other money obligated, like seal coat and all this other stuff already obligated and contracted. I had to take the optional items out. And I didn't have a signed contract on that shed yet. So we're hoping to get that done. But everything else is business as usual, I guess, and less. You know, like even the 2150, we cut all it. You know, we have no money in that particular line item for culverts, bridge materials, gravel. We have to take it all out. It's in the 2140. We still have some money to do that, but it's only in one account option because we're estimating, you know, $600,000-$700,000 less in revenue next year. All that stuff. It's going to be definitely a slower year. So, but it is what it is. So yeah, I got really nothing special to ask the board to do other than hopefully we can maintain our mill levy. It's probably my number one request. And secondly would be is if we can squeeze out anything for our employees, that'd be great. You know, a step would be awesome, a COLA would be awesome. I understand if you can't, but I'm going to ask. And I always joke, I got to swing the bat. I'm going to do that. But even an idea of if we pay a little more on the retirement, doesn't cost that county quite as much money, but the employees see that benefit as an option, even if it's 1%, you know, it would make a difference. So I think that's about all I have to say.
And now you've had some staff retiring recently, correct? Haven't you had some retirements going on?
We have 3 retirees this year. We had one guy pass away. So yeah.
So sorry about that.
So we actually today started advertising for 4 positions. We're going to advertise. Our operator 3 is leaving. We're going to hire operator 2. And I do have a plan to bring to the board as far as transitioning 2s and 3s, just a heads up there. But I'm still working with HR on that. Hopefully in the next month or so we can get that to the board. But yeah, so I guess, yeah, we will save some money that way. And we've had, well, Kenny Homington passed away. He ran the Holmes Blade. So his position's been vacant for probably 3 months. Alan Madsen's position in Niagara has been vacant for a couple months. He's been backfilling all the guys on the Grand Forks, going out there and filling in. So we're a couple guys short, but, it's okay, you know. And then Galen Kuzel, he's, in our Grand Forest office, he's going to be retiring very shortly. So,
Yeah, so you're losing some experienced staff from your department that you'll be bringing new staff in with, which it's a cost savings, but then they're not trained and they need to gain some experience running that equipment too. So people may complain that the roads are bumpier than normal and it'll be like, well, we have new grader operators. That's how that works.
yeah, it's a good excuse for at least a year or two.
That's great. That's great. So do any of the commissioners have questions of Nick? Any questions? One of the things we need to bring up too, besides your revenues and your expenses, at this point, looking to 2020, I'm assuming, do you have any capital projects that you're looking at for your department?
Well, I've always, yeah, we have all kinds of capital improvement projects, but historically, Commissioner Peach, we've never included them in that budget.
Right. But I don't think it would be a bad idea, Nick, if you do have like the top 2 or 3 that we think about those. We need to get them on some type of a capital improvement plan so that, maybe not this year or next year, but we want to know what you're thinking about so that we can be thinking about that once we get beyond some of these actionable months so that we're aware of what you're looking at for capital.
We do have line items in our budget, $50,000, I believe, for all of our outlying sheds and $50,000 for our main office here and shop and main location here at the racetrack for our main office shop. Then every year we have it in there just for maintenance of all of our structures. It's just been worked into our budget over the years and it's an ongoing item that we use for maintaining all of our infrastructure. So yeah, I mean, I would love to get some capital improvement funds out to the highway department, and I'd be happy to put together a list for you guys to consider. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be helpful just so we can start thinking about, and sometimes with maintenance of existing facilities, that may not fall into the capital improvement plan. But certainly I think it's something that we need to be aware of. Or I know that, was it Thompson that you built a new building? Yep. Right. Yep. And so, obviously some of these facilities are aging and probably have aged gracefully, but they can't go on forever. And so, be thinking about not, 10 years we blink and 10 years goes by. So if you can think about beyond maintenance of existing facilities, and that's a good thing too, but also think about, which shed is probably going to be next in line to be replaced because it's not big enough, it's not wide enough, it doesn't meet the needs of the county department anymore. And that doesn't mean that has to all be budgeted in 2021 or 2022, but we blink and 5 years goes by. So we need to be kind of aware of what's coming up, what may be something that may need to be replaced. God forbid we have a tornado storm, whatever. But these are steel buildings, metal buildings, and we know what happens if there's a straight line wind or whatever the case may be. But we need to be aware of what the needs are. So if you want to kind of put an idea together, looking down the road for the next 10 years, and of course that doesn't have to be exact, but I think it's a good idea for us to plan and have an idea of what's coming up with the highway department. So before you ran into a shed wasn't wide enough for the old equipment that used to be in it with plenty of room. Our trucks are wider, the blades are wider, everything is bigger. And, we're seeing that even with our bridges. Obviously, we saw it by Northwood this last year. So we just need to be on top of things as technology improves, so that we can know that when budgets we start talking about capital improvement budgets and some of our buildings and our loans get paid off, then we need to be thinking about what do we need to do to make improvements or to bring the county up into the century.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, because one's gonna jump and say, hey, in 2015 or in 2025, we know we're gonna need to do this with this building or whatever. We need to, be made aware of that through IT, through buildings, through whatever. And obviously you've got, I would assume, the greatest amount of equipment, whether it's being leased or purchased. You've got some things you're looking at depleting now that are sitting in your yard. But as we move forward, our roads are only going to get hopefully better. Bigger is a tough thing to say, but the equipment is bigger. I'm seeing, semi trucks go by my home daily, many times, and they're full with gravel and rock and you name it. And the highway system that was put together in the 50s can't handle that weight. And I can see the ripples coming in Highway 32 with all those loaded trucks. And they try to do what they can to patch it because it's a state highway, but wow, I mean, it gets to be dangerous when the pavement starts falling out in the middle of it. So we just need to be on top of things as we move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Peace. I appreciate all that insight. And, Highway 32 was just overlaid a few years ago, and look at it already. And you're right, all the gravel coming out of Warville area. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of larger gravel companies that had just purchased some property over by Fort Hill. And so they're loading their trucks up, and I know that they probably are a little heavier than they should be. But it really does create havoc on roads. It's tough on our road system. And they weren't designed for that. They weren't designed for this speed. These four-wheel drive tractors and these cultivators and seeders that are going by our farm, they can't even stay in one lane traffic. They're over the whole highway because they're big. I don't even know how they can get them. Well, they have to hold them in and do lots of unique things nowadays with that equipment. But it's expensive stuff and they're part of the road. And that's something that it's not just on our state highways and federal highways, it's on our county roads too, whether they're gravel or whether they're paved. And so we just need to keep, agriculture still continues to be a very vibrant industry in our community, and it will continue to be a vibrant industry. So we just need to keep thinking about that. Does anybody have any questions, any comments for Nick? You are unmuted.
This is Dave. Nick, thanks for watching your budget as you go along. You're on top of things, and that makes it easier. So I do appreciate that. Are there any big equipment trade-outs or just the normal releasing of motor graders or anything unusual this year, you think?
No. Matter of fact, next year I only have, I want to say, $55,000 in the whole equipment budget.
Okay.
So I'm trying to remember what that was. Maybe a pickup and a trailer. So, yeah, there's no tractors. There's no $500,000 plow trucks. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, our fleet's not too bad. Of course, there's some things that could upgrade, but if we got to wait a year or two till the economy comes back and the revenues are back to normal, so be it. We'll be all right.
Well, thanks for watching it carefully, because I see you've done it.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to you and your staff for all the hard work that they do. I don't think we have much of a glitch this winter. We did have some storm days, but your crew is out there and taking care of the roads and getting them cleared out. And I think when we did have a couple of major storms and everything was shut down literally across the eastern part of the state and into western Minnesota, they got out there as soon as they could. And I think that the public was pretty good about staying at home and not trying to get out on roads when they shouldn't, because it was zero visibility and blowing snow. So they did a very good job.
Thank you. I'll follow back to that. And as far as that budgeting goes, you know, you can see Janice sitting here right next to me, and she helps me keep a great eye on it, and Debbie's office and Colleen helps us do a good job too. So yeah, team works pretty well. And, you know, speaking of plowing snow, there's a few rare cases where some of the guys have even slept in their sheds overnight. Well, a couple of times this year, but not real often. But it happens because they know it's coming and they want to get there. And yeah, so pretty dedicated team.
That is very dedicated and doing it ahead of time just so that they can get there knowing to get into that equipment and start moving that snow. It's very, very much appreciated. So we really do appreciate all the hard work that they do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the commission? Okay, if not, then thanks so much. And thank you, Janice, too, for your hard work. It is very much appreciated and helping out with Colleen and Debbie and her staff and getting things moving forward. We really appreciate it. Okay, well, thanks, guys. Have a good, it is going to be a long weekend, I guess, so have a good long weekend on Memorial Day.
Happy birthday, Jana.
Oh, happy birthday.
What? I didn't know that. Thank you.
Well, she didn't tell you and you're sitting right next to her. Well, happy birthday.
Well, you know what? I think she did, but it was a few weeks ago.
Now you're in trouble, Nick.
So much has happened.
Yeah.
Where's
So
the
now
cake?
You're gonna have to either take her to the Dairy Queen or do something.
Great. I will, yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Put a
Thank
highway
you
flare in a
very
cake.
much. Okay, thanks, guys. All right, then the next thing that we have on our budget is corrections. Mr. Holder, are you with us?
He just literally pinged in, so I'm admitting him.
Okay, great.
Brett, can you hear us? Oh, he's connected.
He's connecting his audio.
Okay.
Right.
Right, can you hear us?
Meeting upstairs on the budgets.
Mute, Brett.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You are
wonderful.
Yeah.
Mr. Burkholder, we did get some budget sheets from you. I believe there were a total of 4 pages. And all the commissioners are present, either listening in the office or I believe Dave and myself and Tom are via telecommunication. So if you want to take us through your budget a little bit that you're looking at for 2021, that would be great.
Hold on one second here.
Yep. Okay.
There we go. Okay. You can still hear me, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, first, and
Can they
foremost,
send
I
something
do
out in
have a
writing,
question as it
like
pertains
from
to
the
the
governor's office? or
regular
they don't wanna
employee
do
salaries, is that number in what has been
Okay.
presented to you shows a reduction.
Yep.
Which, has me confused because it should have went the other way, even if,
that?
it was simply just my request. So I do have a question as to the calculation there.
Yeah.
They came out to,
Yeah.
What we do is we put in all the employees that are currently here, and then, we calculate, based on where they are right now, we calculate for the next year, and it doesn't have any increases in it. It probably went down because there was some people that left from last year that were higher paid.
There may have, but there was also,
I can send you a list of who we have on this year's budget.
I would need to see that as well, please. And the other part of it is there was a request by myself to include funding in there to pay for my staff's straight time over and above the 160 hours, which has not been
Yep.
being
And
paid.
there is an extra amount included. I believe it's 40,000. I'd have to pull up that spreadsheet, but I know we include some for straight time.
Okay, I would like to see that, and then I'll just proceed outside of personnel and for the time being.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
With everything going on, what I tried to do is reduce costs wherever I could, knowing that we have a lot on our plates right now. So travel, there's no rhyme or reason as to reducing it to 2/3, other than the fact that I'll restrict staff's travel in and out of the area as much as I have to in order to try to make budgets meet. The inmate health insurance, even though our numbers are down, what we will continue to see is counting individuals, and that's what we're paying for. So I kind of left that the same. I have received notice that the cost of that insurance is going up slightly. But I think with the practice that we have right now, I don't need to put an increase in there, so I did not. Medical services in-house, of course, everything medical is going up. And the $225,000 in there, I hope that's sufficient. I do see a drastic increase in my nursing costs. Hopefully, as well, with some of the grant dollars out there and so forth, we'll be able to access some of those for their overtime hours that are COVID related. Electricity, just a basic increase. Are no reason other than the fact that rates are and everything is going up. And, gas, water, and fuel, those are all reduced based on the fact that I'm expecting that, for example, water is a function of the number of inmates we have, and I expect that they're not going to be pre-pandemic numbers, and therefore I think a small reduction is something we can expect to see. What else do we got in minutes worth of service agreements, they continue to go up, but that's the case with everything. That's no new added agreements. It's just everyone with their 3-4% increases and such added to it. We got hit pretty hard with our snow removal this year in excess of $16,000 just for snow removal. Under medical, drugs, and etc., that one has a fairly large increase. We continue to have sick individuals here that we end up having to pay for. As we sit today, we're on pace for almost $400,000 cost in that category. 275, well, the 34% increase is substantially below what we're on pace for right now. And I just have a hard time increasing it that high without anything known specifically. But I think we have to get it above the 205, which we are this year for sure. Our food service holding relatively stable. Might be a little bit off in this in conversations with the food service vendor. What I'm hearing
are rumors that we're going to see an increase due to all the special diets that we have. This year, for whatever reason, we had 31 individuals participate in Ramadan. And that's extensive, doing more work than our basic meals, and puts added cost on the food service vendors. So the rumor is that they're going to look to put us on special diets with a different rate, which will increase my cost. I have seen nothing of what that might look like as of yet. On a typical day, you might have 10 to 15 people on some sort of special diet. So right now, I've only got a 2.5% increase in there. And that hopefully will be enough. I don't know. My guess is that the combination of the number decrease and the cost of service increase, that I'm going to be good. And then I would draw your attention to the revenue, and some of that, the prisoner board payments. Surprisingly, I am projecting a small increase of what we have in the budget for this year, because we continue to hold for Walsh and Carroll County, who do not hold female inmates at all. And my feeling is that's the neighborly thing to do, as long as I have space for it. And we've been able to do that without any problem as of now. And we continue to hold for the marshals, usually about 35 to 40 people there. I did receive an email shortly before this meeting from Dan Orr, with the U.S. Marshals down in Fargo, pretty much asking whether or not we can accept more, because they have needs apparently. My answer to them is going to be no, we can't at this time. Our population and the protocol we're using for staging people for COVID would put us in at high risk to add in unduly needed people into the facility. We do have, let me see here, video visitation. I see that with some changes. I see that income actually going up slightly. We're going to put a little bit more emphasis on video visitation. I would suspect that next year you will see me come before the board with an RFP request, put that all out to bid. The video visitation we have in the facility now is 4.5 years, well, 4 years old on a 5-year contract. Things have gotten a lot better over 5 years, and I think we can find a better quality product and potentially get more commission just because people will be using it more frequently. Not that it's going to cost the public more money, it should maybe even cost them less, but have a superior product. So I expect that we'll see that go up. So it's a small number, but worthy of noting. And everything else, the 24/7 scram has an increase in that. We're seeing more and more people put on that program, and there is some discussion as how we're going to continue that program amidst COVID-19, as Grand Forks has been offering 2 different ways of providing that service. One is a twice-a-day breath test, where those individuals who come in are tested for alcohol once in the morning, once in the evening. And for that, they're charged $2, $1 for each test. The alternative to that is our scram bracelet, which they get put on their ankle, and they have to come in about once every 10 days. And that ankle then bracelet monitors any alcohol content that they may consume. The cost for that is about $6. I've been surveying a number of other facilities throughout the state to find out what they're doing, because with COVID-19, everyone throughout the state stopped doing the twice-a-day breath testing. The question now remains whether or not to bring it back here and actually have people from the public coming into this building and blowing air through PPT, which an officer is holding. or do we just put a scram bracelet on? So I expect that, that will push more, the whole process is going to push more people to the scram, and we will see a slight increase in commission on that. But it's not a large amount of money or anything, and right now I think it might be the best practice. I know, I can talk to you about that if you want more, but this is the budget meeting, so I'll stop with that.
Okay. Yeah, do any of the commissioners have any questions at this time? You are unmuted. Mr. Falk, Commissioner Falk, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't have any questions. I think all of these budgets are interesting and reasonable, and we're just gonna have to see what the numbers all total up when Colleen and Debbie can get to work on them.
Right now, Rick, you're looking at, based on your 2020 to your 2021 request, it's about a $34,000 increase. So it's very reasonable. What are you doing as far as your population in light of trying to keep the those incarcerated as safe as possible with the COVID-19 taking place?
Thank you for asking that question. We've done an awful lot out here to try to keep the COVID-19 out of the facility. I've got a journal of many, many pages of steps that we've taken. Probably to give you a snapshot of it, when someone is booked in, rather than them ever intermingling with general population, we try to hold them up in our holding area for up to 72 hours. That worked pretty well in the beginning of this whole COVID-19 pandemic when everything was locked down. As everything has been unlocked a little bit, it's becoming more and more difficult to keep people isolated for 72 hours. And what we're finding is we're having to move them somewhere between the 24th and 72nd hour, probably closer to every 48 hours. When we move them from holding, which we try to have them isolated by themselves, we move them into what we're calling a staging unit. We've taken pods 1 and 2, which are 6 units in each pod, 8 beds in each unit, a total of roughly 48 beds per unit. We've designated many of those units as staging, quarantine, and isolation. So what we try to do is take the people out of holding and put them in a staging unit with other individuals who have been placed in that same staging unit in a relatively short, if not the same time period. The reason being is we hold everyone in that staging unit then for an additional 14 days from the date of incarceration, the last one I added to that unit. That means, for example, if I personally was put in a staging unit and Commissioner Peach came, it's not going to happen male, female, but if someone else came in 5 days later and got put into my unit, I wouldn't be in that staging unit for 14 days, but I would be there at least for a total of 19 days because I just got added another 5 days. This has been working well in ensuring that we're not putting anyone in general population who hasn't been with us at least 14 or more days. We are fortunate at this point. We have not had anyone test positive here, either staff and or inmates. We have had both parties tested. Anyone that was symptomatic, and everything so far has come back negative. Now, one of the questions asked to me earlier today from the Department of Corrections goes along the lines of what we're seeing in Cass County and Ward County, where they're testing everyone, staff and inmates. And I have not had an opportunity to to talk with, my medical staff here as to the value that that may or may not provide right now. It is my opinion that if we do that, we will have a really good snapshot for that time and being. But 24 hours, 48 hours later, when I have 10 new inmates and a whole different set of staff here that may have been out in public, I find it difficult to find the true full value in it, long term. It's a great snapshot, and I could use it to act on at that time, but that would be it. But it is something we will consider. It seems to be a practice that more and more are using. Anyone in quarantine and isolation, we've got a variant where we've changed their entire laundry schedule. Rather than their laundry being twice a week, as it would be in general population, it's once a week. My staff don't touch their laundry. It's put in a basket and there it sits for at least 4 or more days, so that if it was infected, that the virus would die out. Also for those individuals, our food service is all delivered on disposable plates. So again, we're not dealing with any potential cross-contamination of dealing with the plates and utensils that way. I think we're doing well. I hope we're doing well. I pray we're doing well. But
this is Tom. I've got a question and a comment. How often are we mass testing?
Commissioner Falk, is that directed towards me and
Right.
inmates and staff?
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, we've done no mass testing. We have not done a test of every inmate here. Under the directions of public health, we looked at symptomatic and used our protocol as such. As you know, mass testing and the availability of it has not been around for a long time. So initially, we had to really determine who and how we were going to test people. So that is how our protocol was developed, and then looking at symptomatic, anyone who comes in, and this was a standard procedure of many of the inmates when this first started, is as soon as they would get booked in, oh, by the way, I've got COVID-19. Thinking that was a get out of jail free card. What they instead learned is that, well, you just got isolated when you're in quarantine. And that changed things a little bit, and we're not doing that as much. But as for mass testing, we had not done it. We have our general population, which mostly all in pod 3 right now, and our minimum area, which used to be work release. And all the staff are wearing masks in there, anytime they're dealing with inmates. It's my opinion, and it's only my opinion, that if what I hear is true about this virus, all those individuals have been there prior to the outbreak. Anyone that enters into those units has been vetted at least 14 days. The likely way if they ever get COVID in those areas is going to be either someone else bringing it in, and that someone else, I fear, would be staff.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up, I saw an interesting presentation yesterday. I'm going to shorten it as much as possible, but I was impressed as heck with it. But Phil Beasy, who owns Edgewood Edgewood Nursing Homes, had the, business acumen to start testing in his nursing homes back in March when this first started. He tests all of his employees weekly. He's got 64 buildings. 60 of them have never had any COVID-19 in them. The only 4 that have had COVID-19 got it before he started testing in March. And he's a big, and that's an impressive record, because the nursing homes all over the state are getting hammered by this. But he data on all the testing through an accounting firm. And one of the things that he brings out is that his employees have been asymptomatic, are not showing any symptoms, but you can still spread that disease. And of course, I just read the news today that Fargo's got 5 inmates and 5 staff members that are positive, and they're all asymptomatic. And once those asymptomatic people start bringing it into your facility, look out. So that's why I'm thinking we need to be testing a lot more than we are.
I agree completely with everything you just said. If there was a means to have frequent testing, it definitely would not hurt us. The difference between us and a nursing home is the nursing home population doesn't change very much. It's the staff over the long run that become the issue within that, and for me, it's going to be both. Because the staff are going in and out, but also in any given week, I can have 30, 40 different individuals here. If there was a way to test them immediately, that would be ideal. Then I wouldn't have to isolate them for 14 days if we knew that they weren't positive.
Well, I guess, and I understand some of the difficulties, although supposedly tests were available, but we know that's not true. But I think we need to do what we can to test as much as we can to try and control this, because testing will be cheaper than controlling an outbreak.
Exactly. I agree completely. I agree.
Brett, are you doing any screening of staff when they're coming in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All staff are screened for symptoms and temperature checks. And encouraged if they're not feeling well, not to show up, just because we don't know why are they not feeling well. You know, so.
And temperature checks are great, except for the fact that they can be active for days before they're actually running any kind of a temperature. So it's kind of a false sense of security.
Part of the issue too, Tom, is not only the access to the test, but also getting the test results back. You know, when they've been doing the math, the larger groups of people being tested, they're talking anywhere from 48 to 72 hours before they get the results back. So it's been difficult, number one, in having the test available, as well as difficult in getting the test results back. I know the state lab is doing the best they possibly can, but it's still taking some time. So in trying to keep staff, you know, from coming in with any type of underlying issues, and to do some, you know, moving around and some ways to keep your clients separate. If they're a new enter or whatever, I think that's a good idea. At least you're trying to keep it in one pod as compared to it happening all over the whole facility. And cleaning is a good idea too. And that may come, I know, with public health. I know Debbie Watson has talked about at our health board meetings that I believe you have 2 staff, correct, from public health that are working there. And it sounds like, or what I'm understanding is most of the time that's not enough, because many of the individuals that are coming in for incarceration have multiple underlying issues. And so that, you know, and that's just obvious with the medication costs that you're talking about, what you budgeted in the past and what you're seeing now.
Right.
So that's unfortunate. Other comments? Dave, did you have a comment to make?
Yes, one of the things about testing, of course, is becoming a little frightening to see the error rates in some of the various tests. Well, I understand how that's a difficult thing for you to rely on completely anyhow, but do you, in your screening, do you ask the questions such as, have you been around anybody who has tested positive, any tracing issues and so on, or do you just get their how they're feeling that day. Yeah, go through a list.
Commissioner Hagan, absolutely we do. There's a whole number of questions on the initial booking that we try to qualify the individual.
How about your staff will too? You know, maybe you could have a list of questions on the wall where you, in your staff entrance, and say, if any of these apply to you, let us know. You need to go over it more specifically with inmates, certainly, but your staff too is, I mean, that's the entry point for lots of possible risk, and you can't get around that, because they are going home every day and coming back in, but, you know, I'm glad we've been lucky so far.
We have had some staff, for example, that, were, when this breakout happened at LM, they were either really good friends of individuals working there, or in one case actually lived with someone that worked at LM. So immediately once we heard that information, and prior to knowing the results of any test, our protocol was that officer was masked immediately 24 hours a day for their entire shift. And with the N95, by being masked that way, that's supposed to protect everyone and anyone else. So if they were infected, they shouldn't have been able to infect anyone else as they were masked. Now, the staff did not like that, I will tell you that. But we were at a loss of what do you do with these people. We need them on teams. We don't have backups and stuff, but we don't want to infect everyone either. So we did that, and we also then tried to place them in posts where they would be working alone. We're trying to be proactive on all of that stuff, but maybe part of our briefing we could ask or have staff respond to various questions. We do have many flyers up throughout the facility speaking of different protocols to do that. I don't think we ask them all those questions that we refer to, not daily.
As long as they know they can tell you about any connections, about any friends who got this and so on, that's fine. I mean, you don't have to remind them every day, but they all should be aware of that, because that's something that's very hard for you to control if they're not telling you.
Correct.
And there is a screening tool that's available on the North Dakota Public Health website, and I know Deb Swanson has it as well. So if that is something that you'd like to have your staff fill out on a daily basis, she can get that for you.
Okay, thank you.
You know, you would assume, Dave, that people would share information with you on a day-to-day basis, but it's ironic that staff don't. You know, unless they're asked a question, sometimes they don't share that information. So that is, we would assume that everybody's gonna share some of that, but then they go back to HIPAA and I don't need to tell you this. And so, you know, it's, the more we can ask, I guess, and try to be proactive, rather, it is for all of us. That's for sure. Does anybody else have any? Oh, I'm sorry, Brett, I interrupted.
I was just going to say, I have one more comment in regards to that. When we ask these questions and we put masks on individuals, what that does also for others that see this is they see someone wearing a mask for 12 hours at a time. And I'm afraid that they look at that and say, I'm not going to speak up because I don't want to wear a mask for 12 hours.
Right.
So we have to weigh that too. We're thinking of that the whole time as well to make sure that we have some kind of protocol that encourages them to be forthcoming out.
Right.
Well, the medical people and cops on the beat and so on wear masks for 12 hours. And if your folks have to do that, I would hope they'd understand that it may take that time.
Yeah.
Cindy, I have a question.
Oh, absolutely, Diane.
Okay, and it relates to the medical and drugs, et cetera. And so maybe I didn't understand, but did you say that right now, okay, so right now in 2020, we're budgeted for $205,000. But did I hear you say that we're on pace for doing 400,000?
Currently, yes, we are. The first quarter report shows our expenses in that category just under $99,000.
So do you have enough budgeted, do you think, for 2021? And also in light of, well, I guess if it's tied to coronavirus, then there might be some monies that would come in there, but I don't know really what kind of medical issues you've been having out there, but I'm just concerned that it could be more than what you have requested.
Commissioner Knopf, I appreciate the concern on that, and it is a crapshoot as to what dollar amount we need there, as we can't control what inmates we're going to have and what the medical needs are going to be. You can see, well, in 2019, my actual expenses were almost $308,000, and I got $205 budgeted for this year. I don't know if that was an oversight that we missed 2020, that it's that low, or if the fact that 2019 was that high. I hadn't had an opportunity to really research that. I'm trying, knowing the situation you guys are in, having to make budgetary decisions, I don't want to put a number in there that is too high either. The $275,000 that I have in there is a 34% increase over this year. And hopefully that my counting numbers are going to remain a little bit lower than what we were used to pre-pandemic. And hopefully weighing between the two of those, we'll be just fine there. That's my hope.
Okay, well, if you're comfortable with it, but I just, I'm looking at the 98,000 whatever, and you're saying we're on track for 400,000 this year, but you've only budgeted for 205,000 this year. Where does that money come from? And then going forward, those things never go down, they always go up with the medical. And I know we've got less inmates and whatnot, but if you're comfortable with it, fine. I just thought it was low.
It is low when you look at what's happened so far this year, but I just pulled up some of the previous years, and other than 2019, we would have been fine going back the previous 4 years. So hopefully what we're seeing when we see the 98,000 in there right now is just a tip of not a tip, but the end of some really very expensive drugs that we've been having to buy at different times, and hopefully be reduced back to pre-2019 numbers, and then we'll be just fine.
All right.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? One of the things, not only with your facility revenues and expenses, I know you and Commissioner Falk have been working with consultants, looking at the facility, how you can utilize the space more efficiently that we have, as well as looking at some additions. And I just want to make sure that you and Commissioner Falk talk about what your needs are, say, in the next 10 years. I know you've talked about building, I know you've talked about adding on certain areas because obviously our facility state penitentiary is full, and we end up maintaining quite a few of the individuals here in the county instead of them moving on to the state, which sometimes makes it not an opportunity to bring in other federal prisoners or other prisoners from other counties. And so, make sure that you visit with Commissioner Falk and think about a 10-year plan of where we're going when it comes to the building, when it comes to remodel projects. Not that we can write a check out, next year, but I believe that the consultant was looking at some type of phase project as well in various phases.
I will definitely continue to stay in touch with Commissioner Falk and the rest of you in this regard. I think one thing that this pandemic shows, though, is that the plan that you guys saw as commissioners in the proposed additions would do very, very little to deal with what we're dealing with today. Everything that was being thought of and put in place were measures to hold larger numbers of people, but typically in dormitory type style. And Penn is dealing with that right now, and the bulk of their population is held that way. And if we're really going to be prepared for another wave of this or a TB outbreak or something like that, that's going to take some different thoughts as to what any construction would look like. Because we absolutely have 0 cells that are made for one person. So anytime we're isolating an individual, we're losing at least one bed or more. And in a situation like we're dealing with now, best practices are going to take to keep them isolated. The good thing I think about this pandemic is it has brought our numbers down. We found some different avenues that I think some of them will stick as a way to reduce population here. I'm hopeful they will. We're also looking at different ways we can potentially communicate with the courts and such, more remote. And if that pans out, that can save in different ways that we currently are paying the transport inmates back and forth. So some good might come out of this as well.
Well, obviously that has been the case with any entity that houses individuals from corrections to higher ed to the university system, senior housing. A lot of people are in close proximity to each other, which has not worked with this pandemic. And so I'm hopeful that some of this technology does continue to take place. Hopefully the legislature figures out that this is the way that people should obviously be able to testify instead of driving all the way out to Bismarck to be there personally, or to have their letters read by someone else who's there. I think this has been very effective. I don't think that the schools quite have it figured out. Higher education doesn't have it figured out. We're kind of going down the road and making decisions as we go forward. And sometimes they may be right and sometimes they may be wrong. We're human and we're doing the best we possibly can to try to keep people safe. Certainly, we're not at any means to say, today we only have 1 person in Grand Forks County as compared to Cass that had 97. And so if you haven't seen the numbers yet today, most of the counties were in single digits, with the exception of Cass County. And that will continue. Just think if there's 100 people positive, how many people they've been in contact with. And so mask wearing, washing of hands. The biggest thing I think that we're learning from this is a pandemic, but it's not like something that happens, a wave of the flu, and then it goes away a month later. This is here to stay until we see a vaccine that's effective. And that's at least 6 months or longer out. So the changes that we're taking, dealing with, and that's going to be something that I think we as employers, we as humans will have to deal with, is the stress that's coming and that's involving with all this. People are sick of it. Let's just get everybody sick and move on. That isn't the answer. And obviously for those with underlying health conditions, those that are aging, and now with some recent information that Deb Swanson shared with us with young children as well. So this is not something that's a quick fix, and we're just going to need to be very patient and very vigilant in healthcare. Any other questions or comments from the commission? I think that, Brett, you're doing a wonderful job in keeping your employees and the individuals that are incarcerated safe. Your budget looks great. Please share with Tom and keep us informed about as we move forward. I know that we're going to have some bonds in the near future that are going to be paid off, I believe, in the next year or so, and that'll be something that'll be good for the county and a positive. We'll continue doing this, and if you weren't available earlier, Brett, because the county is this year doing the election by mail, the primary, we're going to take a break from our meetings, our budget meetings. We've had 2 this week, and now we're going to wait until after the primary election is done. Just because we're ahead of the game, this is only May, and we have to have it done by August, but we can pick it back up in the middle of June once we get through this election cycle. There's just a lot of mail coming in, and I think a lot of handling of the ballots that aren't taking place on the day or a week before the ballots are turned in for early voting. And so with 60-some thousand people in the county and a lot of them coming in by mail, I'm sure it's making the post office very happy, and finance and taxes a little bit inundated. So we're going to take a break from this for at least a couple of weeks, just so you're informed. And I'm sure that I'll talk with Michelle and Debbie, and we can let the other department heads know too. So they're like, hey, how come we had to turn this in and we haven't heard anything yet? We just want to make sure that they know what's going on as well. So that's kind of where we're at. We want to be respectful of the election process, particularly when it's new this year. And then we'll pick it back up probably about the 15th once we get through the election and things are decided and it's settled. We'll let the dust settle a little bit. But we thank you very, very much for sharing this information, and certainly we'll be in. If you think of something, please be in contact with us. And if we need additional information, we'll certainly let you know. Very much for the great job that you're doing, and please share that with your staff as well. And please resolve and be safe.
Thank you, I will do that.
Thank you.
You guys stay
very
safe
much.
as well.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so do we have, Colleen, do we have anybody else scheduled for today, or was it just Nick and Rex?
Just those two. I didn't hear back from Dawn Command.
Okay.
So maybe we can meet with her next time we meet.
Sure, sure. Well, at this point, I'm going to thank you all for participating. I think that the examples we've seen is they're really trying to do their jobs in the most efficient and effective way with the budgets that they have, recognizing that increases are going to be difficult at this time. And again, we're continuing to go down the path of not knowing. But we do know that, you know, the cost of oil, and as Tom said, individuals are probably not as busy out in the western part of the state with the oil, in the oil well industry. And so at this point, does anybody have any comments or anything they'd like to share? Unmuted. Okay. If not, I wish you all a very nice holiday weekend. It is a holiday for those of us that work at home and sometimes forget that. Please enjoy please enjoy your weather and hopefully you can get outside and appreciate some, if the wind would stop, appreciate some outdoor weather. We will meet again with our June meeting, and then at that time, we'll try to schedule the rest of the budget meeting so we can make sure that we get in the process. But Michelle, if you could share with the other department heads kind of where we're at so that I don't add another thing on Colleen or Debbie's agenda at this point, and just let them know that we did this, but because of the election and because of all the additional work that's being required with the election, we're going to just take a break right now with the budget process, and we'll pick that back up after the primary election.
Definitely, I'll get that out today.
That would be very much appreciated. And thank you all very much for participating, and have a good long weekend, and we'll see you in the next week or so.
You too,
Thanks.
Cindy.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Concord. Haley, bye-bye. Goodbye.
Sitting still like that.